Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Soft Days. I am so excited to be here again with you guys. If you guys don't know who I am, my name is Daisy, and Softdayss is my podcast. I want to first off and say welcome. If you haven't been here, please look at my other episodes that I have done. This season's called The Beginning of Becoming. And I just want to say, whoever has been with me throughout this journey in this past couple of episodes, how much have things changed? Like seeing me now, how exciting I am. And it's just from the first episode to now, I'm like, wow. Okay. And I'm not a timid person. I am such a happy person. So it's exciting to be here and with you guys again. Today's episode is a little different. This one is obviously we talked about different things, and this one is called Betrayal. This one isn't about friendships. It's not about family because we have talked about that. It's about that kind of betrayal that changes everything. The kind that comes from the person you built a life with, the person you trusted most. And that goes for my ex-husband. The first time he betrayed me, it was rough. I want to say I was with him when I was 16, dated him till, it's been a long time, guys. It's been very traumatizing time. If you know, you know. But the first time he betrayed me, I felt like the ground disappeared, like under my feet. It wasn't just the lie, it was the choice. It was the choice to break something so important. And I'm not saying I'm perfect too. 'Cause I had a lot of issues there too. I had a lot to do with that as well. I'm not saying it just to think that I have no right. But again, at the end of the day, it doesn't change the fact of how things played out. So take that in consideration. But the choice to turn his back on the love I thought we both were protecting. And I remember thinking back, like, we can fix this. It was the first time, you guys. It was before my ex-husband and I were married. We were just dating. Obviously, there was a lot of factors during that time. It was a lot of, again, he was 16 and we're both young. And a lot of things have changed. My mom relapsed. If you guys remember the first couple of episodes, she relapsed. My mom relapsed, and I had to take in my brother and my sister. From there, I lived across the street from him and his brother and his dad. And that was the way we were. And then we decided to all move in together. And then from there, I ended up getting custody over my four nieces and nephews, as I mentioned before prior. So things have took a long, journey. I was working a lot of hours. I was listening to an older woman that I worked with in my old job at Goodwill. And she would tell me, like, you have no future with this guy. He has nothing to offer you. And I started to believe her. At that time, my mom was incarcerated, and I felt like there was so much more that I could have done, but I was looking for that maternal talk, and then I was kind of alone. So yeah, I listened. And I started distancing myself from him. Someone from middle school and yeah, you guys, middle school. But I was like, what, 18, 19? Young guy, I was young. And again, you would think that this person is like, oh, like, the one that got away. And I started to reach out to him, and obviously we exchanged messages back and forth, knowing that I had a partner that I lived with, and we weren't living together. It was more like he lived with his dad and his brother, and then I lived with my brother and sister and so basically six kids. So it was hard during that time. So yeah, I started to distance myself. I started hanging out with coworkers at work. I started, going out to eat, and I just wanted to escape the life that I was in to where I am now. So that took a lot out of me during that time as well. It was just a lot going on. He found those messages that I had with that person, and he was upset. And he cried and he was angry. And again, that's something that I did. And I wanted to be raw here because it's not just falls on him, it falls on you too. Obviously it wasn't the right way. I was listening to people. And again, relationships, they say never to bring it up to friends and family, because at the end of the day, you decide to be with that person, all of that comes around. So that's where the update of everything going on of there. But I started to notice a lot of difference. He met a friend, and that friend was young, and he didn't have responsibility, and he didn't have this and that. A lot of things have changed. So he had a friend, and that friend was, again, he was alone. He was single. He had chances to be outside and do things and just constant. He was young. He started going out with his friends. He started going playing soccer with them, and just doing all these things. Very productive thing that he was doing. And I was away. I was working all the time, so I was like, fine. Just little things he started doing, changing. And I remember one of a friend of mine. So I worked at Goodwill, so she had to do community service at Goodwill. So we got real close. She told me, and I was telling her a little bit about it, and when he started, coming home late, he tried to tell me like his friends still like, didn't want people there at his house because he had a trailer park. It was just like constant stuff, and I was like, okay, that's fine, whatever. To find out, well, again, my friend told me, that he's cheating, and I said, I just went, he's not. He's not cheating. I was like, trust me, he would never, never cheat. Like, he wouldn't do that. Like, no, absolutely not. He wouldn't do that. And, so little things like that had started happening, and I didn't believe it. I didn't. And he would come to my store and stay there watching me work. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. And I thought it was cute, but people were like, girl, that is weird. Like, así tendrá la conciencia. Like, and he should have probably how his conscience is. Okay. And I remember the day. It was October 3rd. Yeah, it was October 3rd. I found out I'd already had an idea, but my sister was home and she found that he was using a lot of his dad's phone. His dad wouldn't take his phone to work because he didn't really know how to use phones. And my sister found it. She found the phone, and I remember I was going to pay my rent and she told me, she was like, I need to tell you something. She's like, I need to tell you something. And I said, what is it? And she was like, I'll just wait for you to get home. And I said, no, just tell me right now. Says the woman, we have such an instinct on things. And I said, he's cheating on me, huh? My sister couldn't believe it. She could not believe it. She was like, Daisy, I'm so sorry. And I was like, I'll see you when I get home. And I sat there, you guys. I sat there crying, like crying. I was crying, but I was pissed. I said, I was so angry. And I get to the house, to the apartment, and I remember talking to him outside. And I'm banging on my chest, like, how can you do this to me? In Spanish, because he's not English. And I said, ¿Cómo podías hacerme esto? Like, I'm me. Like, and I remember like hitting, and I'm doing like this because I was hitting my chest. And the next day I was so sore from my chest of how much I was hitting it. He got on his knees and I'm so sorry, I'm sorry. And I just walked away. I walked away. I went to my room and he was trying to talk to me. My little sister was like, leave her alone. And I fell asleep crying. Ugh, it's a lot, guys. It's like you go back to a lot of things and you think that you repress. And I did, but it frustrates you and it kind of brings back the memories and how that emotion works with you. And this is why I'm doing it. And you can say, oh, why did she get like that? Well, she was talking to some other guy and she was doing that. Yeah, talking is still cheating considered on my end. Maybe, we could vote on it, because I was telling, the other guy something, that I shouldn't have said to him, when I had this partner. But as women, once we start seeing that they're not going after us like they should, or as, my boyfriend at the time, because he turned into my husband, that was hard. Anywho, during that time, we were separated for like 6 months. We still lived in the same home. There was really nowhere for me to go at that time. I had 6 kids in me. So there was no really fun and there was nothing I can do. At that time, I had to kind of stay there and it sucked. So I decided, so that time I was going to the club at the same time he was going. I was, we were just doing our own thing and I was talking to people and he was talking to people, but I lost so much weight, you guys. Have you guys ever gotten so depressed that you guys have lost so much weight? So like my clothes were fitting me like baggy. That's how much weight I lost. But yeah, I waited a long time and obviously and this is crazy. Kid you guys not. And I'm going to say it because again, raw truth, you guys. I remember talking to him and I told him, well, let's get back together. I will let this go. I said that, you guys. Said that to the man that was cheating on me, talking to this girl. But let me tell you guys something. He got caught within a month. Okay. My sister, props to her. And I know people get a lot into problems when I like don't say nothing, let that person figure it out, like, because you're the one who's going to get blamed. I know my sister didn't do it in any bad intention because I'm her sister. But I've heard people like, she's cheating on you and people get mad and like, don't talk to me no more. And they throw you off. I'm not like that because I know the person meant well. And yeah, I remember constantly crying, you guys. One of his cars was under my name. I followed him to this girl's house, like out here in Colton, you guys. I was banging on a damn car. He was inside with this girl. Like it was constant craziness. And when someone says that girl is crazy, what did you do to make her go crazy? Because that's exactly the question there. What did you do? And I'm saying it, you guys, you're like, that bitch is crazy. I was crazy, you guys. I was constantly doing some crazy stuff, waiting for him outside of, like I would have missed work. Like it was constant, like things that I'm obviously not proud of, but I was that broken. And I was like, if he's my boyfriend, and it was insane, you guys. It was just insane. And it's actually sad, So yeah, that's the truth, you guys. I ain't gonna sugarcoat anything. I'm gonna say it how it is. And obviously that wasn't the right thing to do that I did. So yeah, that's crazy. I would just set it out like how it is. I did. We were supposed to get married around that time as well. We were engaged around that time, which it really was considered engagement, but we were trying to get married in Vegas and it didn't work out. That should have been a sign that it didn't work out. It wasn't really a proposal because I told him I want to be proposed right here on the Caesar Palace. That's how crazy it was. And he did. He got on his knee and he proposed. Months later, that's what happened. In October that same year. And 2012, there you go. There's the years coming up. So 2013 comes and it's April 2013. He ends up getting arrested and because he was going to the clubs and he ended up getting a DUI. He was undocumented. So I was worried about him. I decided to put $500 down for a lawyer and everything kind of came back up. So I said, okay, I'm gonna do it. And yeah, he ended up he ended up getting out and we decided to get married. Obviously gave him that chance to, you know, I don't know if I can get in trouble for this, but like do it for the papers or, do it, seriously for, or to be a real relationship. And he said, yeah, let's do it. I did that and I married him. Married him in April. I think that the week after, week or 2 weeks after I married him. And we were married. We were married as a big Pomona civil wedding type of thing. And, so it was. I found out a month later that he was still talking to the same girl. She knew we were married. I told her we were married. I spoke with her. It was constant, her stalking my page. I was stalking her page. It was just like crazy. And I was still talking to her. And instead of me being upset with him, I was upset with the girl because I'm like, girl, didn't like we married? Like, now I say no marriage and no baby will keep a man if he doesn't want to be there. Get that down. No man or no person will ever do that. So there's that. So I stayed on with this man and we got a lawyer for him to be able to get papers. We were doing the process, we put money down. We were just doing the whole shipping. But things went the same. It was not the same. We were married for like almost a year and a half. But things were the same. I couldn't let it go. I could not let go of all the betrayals that he did. We were going to the same club and these girls are looking at him and it's like, they know who I am, obviously, but it sucked. Really did suck. It sucked. Anywho, after that, you guys, I was like everything I was remembering everything. And if you stay with the person that cheated on you, all for it, you guys. I did it twice and I will get back to the twice part, you guys. But I did it and I get it. And sometimes it might work, it might not. I'm not here to tell you because everybody's relationship is different. I have people that I know that stayed and they are okay and they learned and they growed together. Then there's other ones that are like me and I have other friends that didn't stay with that person, but it broke me. It broke the person that I was. Gained weight again. I had Bell's palsy at a young age. I had a bunch of my kids, had work. I had so much going on, and I ended up getting Bell's palsy at a young from a stress of a 40-year-old, you guys. And I was only 21, 22. I was going through a lot, and then adding betrayal on top of that. And I can laugh about it because it's been years. Okay, it's been years. We decided we're living in Ontario. We ended up moving to Fontana. And, it was the same. Like I said, it wasn't, he wasn't talking to her no more. And that's the story. He started working because obviously he had to pay the lawyer. So he was working a lot of jobs. He was trying to, but he wasn't, can I put this word now? I became the masculine in the relationship. I was nowhere feminine at all. I had to keep it together for everybody, including him. There was like everything, everything, guys. And it sucked, you guys. If you're with someone that takes out your masculinity, that's how it's not supposed to be. I didn't like pink, and now I wear pink because it's cute. Because with my husband now, I am able to do that. I'm able to come up to my feminine side for that. And I thankful for that. But anyway, we're not talking about my husband now. That's a new episode coming up. But yes, so we began moving to Fontana. I really don't know what happened. I just, because like I said, we were going through a lot of issues and I slowly separated and I moved out of the house and I moved to my apartment. And I thought that he was going to follow. And I remember it was a constant battle, a constant fight with him. And he tells me that he realized that he was freaking out because I was dating, but he wasn't happy. He realized that he was okay. So he didn't follow. But he came to visit here and there because he had issues with his brother. And obviously, he was my husband and I loved him and I wanted him to be with him. So I would have him at my house and then he would leave. But during that time, I started noticing that he was answering calls outside of my little patio. And I remember trying to open the door and he's like holding onto the door. I started noticing that he was texting girls and I was confused. Not confused that we weren't together, but he was my husband. And I was like, remember seeing myself on the ground crying and just crying. And then from there, he ends up, I don't know. I think from there, he started, his phone was locked and I'm very smart, you guys. I turned into FBI lady quick, and he would be asleep and I would be on his phone just crying. And I see a message from this girl. Okay, you guys, a message from this girl. And it's like, you're with her, huh? You're with Daisy, huh? And I remember going, like, they know who I am. These people know who I am. That is crazy. These girls know. And I'll get back to you guys on that one, days. But later on, again, he was with us around July. He was with me and the kids in July. And then by September, I find out that he brought this girl that I just mentioned to my sister's house with his brother. I didn't know about this until the end of September. And then nobody wanted to tell me. My sister didn't want to tell me. Nobody said anything. And I was like, what the heck? I found out that she was living there. I remember when my aunt, thank her very much, took me to go divorce him. And I did. I didn't wait a whole week. I found out that she was living there. So a while later, he ends up telling I divorced him a week. Week tops. So yes, I didn't wait. I put in the paperwork and I didn't talk to my sister. I didn't go to the house anymore. And it was just felt so betrayed from my sister. So again, we're betrayed. Obviously, it's her husband. She's on his side. Blah blah blah. Again, we'll get into that later. But yeah, a couple months after, I remember having a dream. Yes, I had a dream, and it was him and her with the baby, and it was the pink blanket. And I remember telling my sister, "Is she pregnant?" And she was like, "How did you know?" And yeah, she was pregnant, and we didn't have kids on our end to have, you know, infertility issues. And that's something that we'll get into on certain episodes. But yeah, we didn't have kids. Obviously, I had a bunch of kids already. I remember we talked about kids, but you never, was like, hell no, we got too many kids. Maybe when my youngest turns 5, we'll talk about having kids. And yeah, that's where it's at, you guys. I remember my sister telling me that he didn't want to get a divorce. Obviously, lawyers. But how stupid would I be to stay with this guy? So hell no. I got his money from the lawyer. I took his shit. I did, you guys. I went and got him divorced. It was the right thing to do. But I still had to show up to the house. Till this day, I still need to show up to the house. And we divorced back in 2016. I didn't do adultery. I could have done it. I didn't do it. I could have gotten, so it called Valley Court said no. I just wanted my last name back. And yeah, and I got it. He didn't show up to court because he thought that, I remember he didn't want to sign the divorce papers, but he didn't know that he didn't show up. It didn't matter. So I let him know and we were divorced. So back in 26th of March, it was finalized. And that's it. That is it, you guys. We obviously have a lot of issues. And again, I mentioned that I have to see them all the time because they live with my sister still. It's been years on. I am civil the best that I can. It took a lot for me and my family civil, but we had to do it for my sister and my brother-in-law. Now I don't even visit so much because again, I mentioned before, my brother-in-law and you have issues. But I walked into a house still the same. He obviously had talked to my therapist about this. She knows. And, there was during this time of me becoming, I had to bring up a lot of things to write a letter. And I thought I was over it. And I was over the whole thing. The betrayal thing, you don't get over that, And you do, but it's still there. It still picks at you. Some people, again, leave, and you don't see them. But we have two nephews together. So it's kind of like, and they live with my sister. So it's like, okay. Anywho, I made this episode, you guys, for betrayal. You guys this is a safe zone. Guys, you're okay. And I waited 3 years throughout that time to be able to move forward. It took a lot out of me. I did things that I'm not proud of, which I know that I say a lot of truth, but that's something I will not say because I don't know if his wife or just her family or anybody's going to see it. And obviously, I'm not trying to break up anything or relationships or marriages or whatever. So that stays to myself. But again, it took a lot out of me. And people to this day say, wow, I don't know how you do it. Some Brady Bunch, I'm telling you, Brady, we're going Mount Brady Farm together. It's crazy stuff, okay? But that's where I'm at now. Again, I mentioned I want to do this episode for you guys to explain to you guys and show you guys that there is always beautifulness out there. But it was hard. I no longer wanted to get ready. Remember crying, just felt ugly and, so lost. I would feed my kids. It was like I was living in a different timeline. And I'm so happy how far I come. Yeah. So it does get easier. It just doesn't get easier now during your guys' time, wherever you guys are. But you need to value yourself a little more. That is the main key here, is to value yourself a little more because you are beautiful. Because we are a woman, we are feminine. And we might feel like, well, I don't care. No, that's masculinity. But when you find that person, the feminine will come out. They want to do this because they want to, not because they need to. Okay. And I've said this so many times. A person or a guy will want this for you, but maybe you don't want anyone. You don't need anyone. You guys, you don't. You want to be with that person is important. And definitely, put it on God. I didn't do that back then. And maybe I would have probably healed a little longer than that. But I can say that I did what I had to do for the family. And because my validation, my feelings didn't matter. And obviously, me and my sister now have little issues here and there. But she's still my sister. And I get where she stands and I understand. Him as well. I see him and say hi, and his kids say hi to me. But this is where I am. And if you guys ever been through that, I hear you. And I like you guys on that. Listen, you guys. So I am going to end it here. I will see you guys on the next episode. But yeah, so if you guys resonate to this episode, I hope to hear from you guys in the comments. Please share, subscribe for new updates. I will be adding more people on here guest-wise. I say I'm getting comfortable on the camera. All right, you guys have a good one.